The first time I woke up and found my neighbor lying beside me, my heart nearly stopped. Her eyes were open, but somehow empty, and with tears slowly slipping down her cheeks, she whispered only 5 words that shattered the silence inside my apartment. "Don't leave me alone." Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe that hope, compassion, and second chances can change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Ripple of Love so together we can spread stories that remind us humanity still exists. It happened on a bright Saturday morning after one of the longest nights of my life. My name is Adrian Foster, a 34-year-old architectural illustrator who had spent years drawing beautiful homes for strangers while living alone in a quiet apartment building. People assumed I enjoyed solitude because I rarely spoke beyond polite greetings. The truth was much different. 3 years earlier, I had lost my younger sister, Emily, after years of battling severe anxiety that none of us fully understood until it was too late. Since then, every empty room echoed with regret. I convinced myself that keeping people at a distance would prevent more heartbreak. Across the hallway lived a woman named Nora Bennett, 29 years old, a children's librarian with soft brown eyes and chestnut hair usually tied into a loose ponytail. Every weekday morning she left wearing simple blue jeans, comfortable sneakers, and pastel-colored sweaters, always carrying a canvas bag overflowing with books. She smiled at everyone but never stayed long enough for conversations. The elderly residents adored her because she carried their groceries upstairs without being asked. Children from the neighborhood ran toward her whenever they saw her walking home. Yet behind that gentle smile rested a sadness that seemed too heavy for someone so young. During daylight hours our paths crossed often. We watered plants on the shared balcony, collected packages from the lobby, and occasionally exchanged homemade cookies during holidays. I noticed dark circles beneath her eyes becoming more noticeable every week. Sometimes she looked exhausted before noon, as though sleep had abandoned her completely. She laughed whenever anyone asked if she was feeling all right, insisting she was simply overworked. Everything changed after that terrifying midnight. The apartment manager later explained that Nora had struggled with sleepwalking since childhood, but after the death of her father almost a year earlier, the episodes had returned far more intensely. Her mother lived several states away, and Nora insisted she could manage on her own. Few people knew the truth because she hid her condition out of embarrassment. Somehow, while still asleep, she had unlocked her apartment, wandered into the hallway, discovered my door accidentally left unlatched after taking out the trash, and quietly walked inside. She never remembered doing it. When she finally woke the next morning sitting on my couch wrapped in a blanket, confusion flooded her face before overwhelming shame followed. She apologized repeatedly, her hands trembling as tears formed again. I assured her nothing inappropriate had happened. She simply looked frightened, like someone who had been lost in a storm without realizing it. That strange night became the beginning of an unexpected friendship. The following weeks unfolded beneath clear blue skies filled with warm afternoon sunlight. Instead of avoiding one another, we began sharing coffee on the apartment courtyard benches surrounded by blooming flowers. Nora confessed that her father's sudden heart attack had left wounds she never processed. She buried herself in work, pretending strength for everyone around her while silently collapsing inside. Her sleepwalking was not simply a medical condition anymore. It had become an expression of unresolved grief, loneliness, and fear that surfaced only when her conscious mind surrendered to sleep. Listening to her reminded me painfully of Emily. For years, I had blamed myself for not recognizing my sister's silent cries for help. Watching Nora struggle awakened every memory I had tried desperately to bury. Sometimes after returning to my apartment, I sat beside the window for hours staring at the sunlit streets below, wondering how many people carried invisible battles while smiling politely at strangers. One bright afternoon, we visited a local botanical garden because Nora admitted nature made her feel calmer. Colorful flowers stretched across the landscape, while butterflies floated lazily through the warm air. Families laughed nearby, children chased bubbles across green lawns, and musicians played gentle acoustic melodies beneath shaded trees. It should have felt peaceful, yet Nora suddenly froze after hearing an ambulance siren echo in the distance. Her breathing quickened, and panic clouded her eyes. She whispered that the last sound her father heard before disappearing forever was an ambulance arriving too late. Without thinking, I simply stayed beside her. No grand speeches, no attempts to fix her pain. Just quiet company. For the first time since losing Emily, I realized healing sometimes begins when someone chooses not to walk away. As months passed, Nora finally agreed to seek professional help. She joined grief counseling, improved her sleeping routine, and installed additional safety locks designed specifically for sleepwalkers. Progress came slowly. Some mornings she looked hopeful. Other days exhaustion returned like dark clouds after sunshine. Recovery was never a straight road. Meanwhile, I faced my own buried grief. Encouraged by Nora, I reopened the sketchbook I had abandoned after Emily died. Instead of designing expensive houses, I began illustrating everyday moments of kindness. A grandfather feeding birds, neighbors planting flowers together, children reading beneath old trees. Each drawing somehow stitched another small piece of my broken heart back together. Then came another unforgettable morning. Sunlight streamed through my bedroom curtains as I awoke to find my apartment door standing slightly open. Panic rushed through me until I stepped into the hallway. There stood Nora, still asleep. Barefoot, holding nothing except an old family photograph against her chest. She wasn't frightened this time. She wasn't searching blindly. She simply stood beneath the morning light with peaceful tears resting on her cheeks. Carefully, I guided her back toward her apartment without startling her. Minutes later, she woke safely in her own bed with absolutely no memory of leaving again. Yet something had changed. Her counselor later explained that healing often allows painful memories to surface differently. Instead of running from fear, her sleeping mind seemed to be searching for comfort before naturally finding its way home again. Weeks turned into seasons. The woman who once hid behind exhaustion slowly rediscovered laughter. She organized reading festivals for neighborhood children. She planted colorful flowers outside the apartment entrance. She even volunteered to support families grieving loved ones, because she understood loneliness more deeply than most people ever would. Watching her transformation quietly transformed me as well. The greatest surprise wasn't that I had helped save someone else. It was realizing she had rescued me from years of guilt I believed I deserved forever. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what hope means to you. And if this story reminded you that kindness can quietly save lives, please support Ripple of Love by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Your support allows more people to discover stories that inspire compassion when the world needs it most. Even now, whenever daylight fills the apartment hallway, I sometimes remember that impossible night when fear knocked gently on my door disguised as a sleeping stranger. Most people spend their lives believing miracles arrive with fireworks, dramatic rescues, or extraordinary moments. Mine arrived silently, wearing simple pajamas, carrying invisible grief, and whispering 5 heartbreaking words that neither of us would ever forget. I learned that the people who appear strongest often carry the deepest loneliness, and sometimes the greatest act of love is simply remaining beside someone until they find the strength to stand on their own again. We cannot erase another person's pain, rewrite yesterday, or guarantee tomorrow, but we can choose compassion today. That single choice may become the reason someone believes life is still worth facing when morning finally comes. And perhaps that is the quiet miracle our hearts have been searching for all along.